Hey guys, my name's Tom, and today we're going to be covering a game that encourages you to do some ethically questioned things, like seduce your mother-in-law or murder your slightly dim son. You can become one of the most powerful men in the world, spending hours to get there, only to gain a fever the next day, and then being castrated by a doctor who's medically trying to heal you. Yes, this happened to me multiple times, and I still can't get over it. Want to create the Habsburgs 2.0? Then why not marry your aunt, sister, mother? Maybe marrying your mother is a bit too far actually. God wouldn't approve of that. But who cares if you want to worship Satan? In fact, why not join the game's very own demon worshipping society? Your new day job is to go around attempting to kidnap people. In this society, you can even heal yourself through dark magic and absorb a child's life force. All these crazy things happen in none other than one of the best medieval games that has ever been created, Crusader Kings 2. Times were simpler back at this time. No need to spend hours a day watching TikTok dances. Instead, at this time, you could go to a tavern, grab a few meads, and then burn some local witches in the evening, which is great fun, obviously. Crusader Kings 2 was one of Paradox's golden games, released all the way back in 2012, and is a major reason why we see grand strategy become what it is today. So why should you care about such an old game, and is it still worth playing in 2022? Let's get into the video. So firstly, what is the objective of this game? Well, there isn't really a defined objective, and you can pretty much do what you want until you die. A bit like reality, really. You could be a nice loyal vassal and not do anything for the entire game, but where's the fun in that? Instead, most people try and gain power, and there's a few different ways you can do this, but ultimately, you need to take territory through war and marry land-owning dynasties, so your dynastic heir can inherit land through marriage. Once your character dies, you then pass on to your heir, and the process repeats itself. You also want to try and go for the genius trait, and it's probably not the best idea to marry any of your relatives. So, this all sounds quite easy, right? Well, not exactly. You could easily be poisoned, or have rebels rising up because you forgot to designate land. Vassals in this game are some of the most hateful people I've ever seen, and they certainly aren't in any peace-loving cults as far as I'm aware. It's impossible to keep everyone happy in this game, so if you can't convince them to like you, then you might as well just murder them all and replace them with people who do like you. As you gain power, at the same time, you also need to develop healthy children to replace you once you die. This part isn't always straightforward, however. If you have too many children, then this will likely bite you in the back later, as they're all likely to fight each other, and if you have bad inheritance laws, then your realm is split up into many different pieces, bringing you back to square one. Have too few children though, and there's a serious chance you could lose the game if you die without a dynastic heir. Some people really don't care about the children meta though, and will seduce anyone they see fit. At the end of the day though, unlike other Paradox games like EU4, Heartsfine 4, you don't play Crusader Kings 2 to become Emperor of the world. The fun aspect about this game is the character-driven storylines that happen over time as you play Crusader Kings 2. This is what makes the game so popular, and let's just read some wonderful CK2 stories over at the Reddit. I had my court physician ask me if I wanted to look into how to make myself more fertile. I think, why not? It couldn't hurt. He comes back to me and says, I've looked into it, and your wife should be pregnant by the next full moon. He then immediately proceeds to get my wife pregnant. What a bro. These court physicians are absolutely crazy in this game. Let's read another one. Charlemagne revoked my only county title as a count in the early start. I revolted, taking half the kingdom with me. I won the war and easily deposed him. Theodoric became West Francian king, and I started a faction to reimpose Karl as king. We won the faction war, we became friends, and Karl rightfully imprisoned me, as I was apparently still a traitor, revoking my title, and game over. Well, that certainly took a few ups and downs. As you can see by these stories, there's a lot that can happen in the crusading world, and it's one of the reasons why this game is so great. To complete the objective, there are several interesting mechanics to help you in this endeavour. You personally decide the way of life you want to choose, and you can go from a family man, to a seduction goddess, to a competent administrator. I'm always personally drawn to the seduction way of life. Maybe it's because I'm lacking this in real life though. Sad times. You also have the ambition mechanic that can give you an objective in the game. For example, an ambition can be to have a son. I'm sure Henry VIII really did pick this ambition and stopped at nothing to get it. Or you can also try and become king, displacing your liege. But usually it tends not to go so well sometimes. and you may be imprisoned and lose the game if you're not careful. Even with Crusader Kings 3 out, I'd argue some of the mechanics are slightly better in Crusader Kings 2, although Crusader Kings 3 is definitely catching up. Not only is the base game fantastic, but I'd argue Crusader Kings 2 has some of the best mods around. Are you a major fan of Japan and the holy game of Son Goku, which is right up there with March of the Eagles? Well, there's a mod for you in Crusader Kings 2. Want to rewrite the ending of Game of Thrones Season 8? Why not use the Crusader Kings 2 Game of Thrones mod to help you with your quest, and put the one and only true king of Westeros on the throne, Hot Pie. They even have a medieval coffin dance mod, so this sound comes on every single time someone dies. Even now, the mods of Crusader Kings 2 gives it a significant edge over Crusader Kings 3, and is a significant reason why the fanbase is split. Crusader Kings 2 is free right now anyway, so you can always try some of the mods, with thousands in the workshop. Talking about the price, even though Crusader Kings 2 is free, we need to have a chat about the sheer amount of DLC. The price of a Crusader Kings 2 DLC right now is £184, or over $200 and you need the DLC to gain the full experience of the game. This is steep, particularly for newcomers, but it is essential to the game, and it's vastly different without DLC. This has been a trend with a lot of Paradox games though, but a solution if you don't want to pay full price is you can always use a subscription model to see if you prefer it over Crusader Kings 3. Ultimately it's up to you though, but given the fact Paradox are no longer working on it, perhaps it's better to spend your money elsewhere, and invest in a newer game that's likely to improve. So, is it still worth playing this game, even though we now have Crusader Kings 3? Provided you have a DLC for Crusader Kings 2, I think you can argue it's a better game, given the fact there's a lot more content packed into it. Although Crusader Kings 3 is much better looking, and has a smoother experience, particularly now we have our very own 3D Royal Court. Ultimately, it's the content that matters more, and the graphics don't always necessarily mean you'd enjoy the game more. Another example of this in a completely different game is rugby fans are still waiting for better games than Rugby 08, released in 2007, which is still yet to happen despite numerous attempts from various gaming companies. Given the fact Crusader Kings 2 has been developed for several years, it is still a game worth playing, and I'd highly recommend it with the subscription model. Despite it being so old, it's still the absolute best medieval simulator you can buy on the market until Crusader Kings 3 gets enough content, and I'm sure CK3 will eventually take the top spot, but not at the moment. I'm curious as to what you guys think in the comments there, and whether you agree with me that it's still worth buying. Thank you guys for watching, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye for now. Shout out to our Patreons: Shadowsinger, Jado52, Kargon, Flyerton, Henriki, Redguard76, and Xiaomi. Your support means a lot, guys.